Formula One comes to the Temple of Speed at Monza for the Italian Grand Prix and round 9 of the 2022 season. And coming into this weekend, all the pressure is on the home team Ferrari to perform and take the fight to their rivals Audi and Red Bull in the championship. Ferrari have been optimizing updates they introduced in Monaco for the low drag needed for Monza, and Arrivabene is confident that his team can put on a show for the loyal Tifosi. Mercedes come to this race with another major upgrade to their engine and aerodynamics, which Verstappen hopes can help him be a spanner in the works for the usual top teams. One of those usual teams was Renault, but in recent rounds they haven't appeared to be on pace. But Esteban Ocon appeared to be in good spirits, saying his team will be setting their car up for the race rather than qualifying. And finally, BMW expect a tough race with their car not being well balanced to tackle the long straights, but equally tricky corners around Monza, and this has made teams such as Jaguar and McLaren lick their lips at the prospect of a good solid race finish. Taking a look now at the starting grid for the 2022 Italian Grand Prix, and it's a prancing horse on pole as Charles Leclerc once again goes quickest of all, just 17 thousandths of a second between him and the Audi of Vettel, who joins him on the front row, unsurprisingly quick on Monza's long straights. There's another Ferrari on the second row, but he'll be starting behind the Mercedes of Verstappen, who was absolutely glowing about the upgrades coming out of the factory in Brackley that allowed him to go that little bit quicker than Aarava in P4. The other Audi of Sainz will start from the third row in 3 places behind his teammate, but ahead of both the Red Bulls, Gasly leading that charge a little more than half a tenth ahead of his teammate Antonio Giovinazzi, who will start alongside the leading Renault of Ocon a little less than half a second off the pole time. And with the BMWs struggling, it'll be Stoffel Van Dorn for Jaguar and Mick Schumacher for Mercedes, who round out the top 10, both silver arrows making the cut for Q3. Just outside the top 10, we find the leading BMW of Sergio Perez lined up alongside the other Renault of Jack Aitken, who finds himself in a bit of a Bimmer sandwich with Bottas starting just behind in 13th position, and alongside the leading McLaren of Lando Norris. Once again, though, a matter of thousandths of a second separating the two boys from Woking. Daniel Ricciardo will start from way down in 15th position, although he was over 3/10 quicker than Kari, who joins him on the 8th row, but is 7 positions behind Stoffel. Once again, at the back, it's an all Haas and Alpha affair, but this time it was Eilot who was quickest. He'll be starting in P17 with Hülkenberg as the leading Haas in 18th position, and bringing up the rear once again, it's Wehrlein and Fuoco over 2/10 slower than Hulk and over 1.4 seconds off the pole time.
Hey, what's going on, it's aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 MyDriver career mode, episode number 9 today for Season 8 at the Italian Grand Prix. If you guys did miss episode number 8, uploaded 2 days ago at the British Grand Prix Sprint Race, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. But a huge thank you to you guys for the support on that. You guys smashed it out of the park once again, so eternally thankful for that, and just always awesome to read through the comments. You guys really enjoyed that, spoiler alert, comeback drive that was at the British GP Sprint Race, so if you haven't seen that, definitely go check that out. But we're here in Italy then, and a very important race, of course. It is the home race of me and Leclerc's team, Scuderia Ferrari. We need to have a good performance here. The press are demanding it back in Italy here, and the Tifosi are demanding it, and, you know, it's not been a very smooth riding for the team as a whole. You can see in the standings there, Pierre Gasly and Carlos Sainz level on points for the lead of the championship, with Ocon a little bit further back, and then we're a lot further back, 11 points down from them with 90 to 101. So we need to buck up, and also Leclerc is way down in P8 in the standings, so he really needs to also get on the mark, and he's done a great job, like I said, to be on pole to try and do that. But the constructors, we're in P3 at the moment behind Audi and Red Bull. We slumped down to P4 briefly, and so we can't really afford to do that ever again. We need to try and look forward, hopefully, to try and matching and try and closing up that gap to Audi and Red Bull. And you can see the entire constructors, really, all teams have stuff to prove still with so many rounds left in this championship, and it's all rather tight for every single position here. But we're going to line up then for the grids to the Italian Grand Prix and see what we can do here at the Temple of Speed, that is the Monza circuit. As we go to 5 red lights then for round number 9 of the F1 2022 season here from P4 on the grid. 5 red lights are out and we're underway. It's a fantastic start for us compared to Max Verstappen, who gets a lot of wheel spin there. His rear tyres smoking away. Leclerc, my teammates, had a good one. We're going to go down the inside and make it 3 wide into turn 1. Vettel on the right, Verstappen on the left, and Vettel's hopped the curb, and that's made it very awkward for me. I'm trying to just avoid any major contact with Verstappen, so he backed out of that, and probably cleverly so, because now we can have a good run at the Dutchman now. So we're back down to P4, but can we make it P3 now as we go through the curve on the right? Leclerc still stomping away from pole position in first place, Vettel second, and we do make it P3 ahead of Verstappen. Then follows Carlos Sainz, and it looks like the two Red Bull cars having a pretty decent getaway, but they'll be a bit annoyed from where they started in qualifying, so they're going to want to look ahead and try and make up some positions. Of course, though, very close is myself, Gasly, and Sainz on track, but we need to be a lot further ahead. We have got 11 points to try and make up. I'm not saying we can make all of those up in this race, but we need to try and do a good job to try and dent that lead that both those guys have on level points in this championship. So we go through, though, Ascari, then you can see Verstappen closing up, and at the moment it seems like he has the better pace actually, and maybe his car's working better on heavier fuel because he's got a great run. The slipstream's really powerful, of course, here around Monza, and he's down my inside. We're going to have to try and force a move on the outside of Parabolic. It's going to be close. He's going to squeeze me towards the green rumble strip there, and obviously once again, just like last episode, I have a great scrap with Max Verstappen. He puts his elbows out there as you would expect from the Dutchman, and we're still neck and neck. It's a pure drag race down to turn one. Who's going to brake later? We're going to try, but we've broken way too late there, and we've locked up on the front right, almost went completely off track, and we've lost the place not only to Max Verstappen, but also Carlos Sainz. So a bad mistake from me there under pressure. You know, the pressure is on to try and do really well in this race from not only my team, but just myself as well in the championship, and so we made a really crucial mistake there, and so we have to try and recompose and try and re-overtake Carlos Sainz and then Verstappen if we can. So we move on swiftly onto the very next lap, on the end of lap 2, on towards lap 3, and we're on the back of Carlos Sainz then straight away, and DRS will be activated as well, so we'll have that to help us as well on the very next lap. But I'm really hoping we can get this done and booked before we get to the DRS zone then on the end of this lap, down the inside of turn 1, then under braking Verstappen into turn 1. It's very close to us, and he's locking up as well, and so he felt a bit of pressure, maybe saw the red in his mirrors behind him there. We almost had a look around his outside, but nothing came of it, so we're going to remain in P4 then, and Sainz just right up our gearbox still. Obviously the Audi power knows no bounds, and they're going to be very strong and consistent around here, but it's just about trying to get the time through the corners basically, where we know the Audis are going to be poor. But talking about through the corners, Sainz actually sends one down the inside there momentarily. Split second, the proximity arrow went red, and he tried a little look because he got a great exit off that chicane, but nothing came of it. And now, thankfully, we are now focused on Verstappen up ahead, trying to re-overtake him as Vettel goes fastest. I think that was, and now here we go, the move on Verstappen with DRS wide open on the right-hand side once again. Now this time, can we hopefully not lock up as we try and overtake Verstappen? Second time of asking there, side by side through turns 2, but we've got the better line. We're nearly completely off circuit there as Verstappen really squeezes us quite hard, but we are up into P3, and I think momentarily, I think Leclerc and Vettel up ahead were going side by side, so we're going to have to look at a replay there. But Verstappen got really such a poor exit that he's been overtaken by Sainz, and he's now going side by side with Antonio Giovinazzi, and the home man, the Italian in the Red Bull car, has actually mugged him off in front of the Italian crowd, and so now Verstappen is sandwiched between both Red Bull cars. So Verstappen's lost 3 places then in the span of a sector. Meanwhile, it's Vettel ahead of Leclerc, and we're going to have a look at a replay of why that is the case. So Leclerc was leading off pole position, of course, and then here's Vettel then chasing him down quite hard. On the same lap, I overtook Max Verstappen into turn 1. Vettel into turn 1, just pressurizing Leclerc into a crucial mistake. Lock up on the front right. Leclerc does keep it side by side though through turns 1 and 2, and then Vettel plants the power. Obviously you can see there the advantage the Audi engine has versus the Ferrari. He's able to out-traction him, out-just power him down that mini straight, and he's up into first place. Although saying that, Leclerc is right up his tail, so he's got the pace through the corners. Let's see now with Leclerc with DRS and Vettel without it. Let's see if my teammate now can regain the lead of the Italian Grand Prix for Ferraris. He's now going to go to the inside or just pressurize him still, and maybe see if he can make a similar mistake to Vettel. Vettel does lock up. It's a double lock up though, and Vettel's had a horrendous mistake there. That was so much worse than the one Leclerc made, and so Vettel is down back to P2. So kind of karma and kind of one apiece there. Both drivers who are in the lead of the Grand Prix for 1 lap at least there, for Vettel's sake. Both of them made the same kind of mistake into turn 1. So I think that was a pretty fair kind of, you know, what goes around comes around essentially for Vettel and Leclerc. Meanwhile, we've got the Italian Giovinazzi round the outside of Carlos Sainz. What a move there on the outside of Parabolica there. Late break there from Giovinazzi, and he's up the order. So the Red Bull cars are maybe starting to come back in this Grand Prix. But Sainz and Verstappen now trying to slipstream Giovinazzi. And look at Gasly in the background there at the top of your screen. Gasly's overtaken Verstappen now, and Sainz pulls ahead down the inside, but Gio's going to come back around the outside, and just behind them, Gasly keeps ahead of Verstappen, who now falls behind. I think that's the Jaguar of Stoffel Vandoorne. So Verstappen falling away in this race. I don't know if he has issues. Of course, the Mercedes team have upgrades for this weekend, so I don't know if that's going faulty for them. We'll have to see later on how his progress goes. But at the moment, still then, Sainz in a Red Bull sandwich in between, but not for long, as Gio now is the one to lock up. And it looks like the new, much faster V10 hybrid cars are really causing many issues for the teams here today into turn one. Obviously coming at that turn one at nearly 240 miles per hour, so much faster than they used to, and obviously it's a big ask to stop it into what is turn one, which is a very sharp 90-degree right-hander. So the brakes being tested for sure today, and so Giovinazzi with a bad mistake, and now it's Gasly v Carlos Sainz here. Giovinazzi is now being overtaken by Vandoorne, so Vandoorne's going really well there in the background there. Meanwhile, Gasly makes a very similar move that his teammate made earlier on the Grand Prix, around the outside of Carlos Sainz to Parabolica, and so now Gasly will be up into what is, I think, P4, that is, right behind me, and then Carlos Sainz will be the one trailing him, and then behind them, you can still see, is Vandoorne in that Jaguar doing a fabulous job there. So, I don't know if they've set themselves up for a low drag setup there, but Vandoorne really pulling his weight and more in this Grand Prix so far. But now, on lap 8, my teammate has come into the pits. Vettel continues on, I continue on. Obviously, I don't want to double stack with my teammate there, so we'll go on for one more lap and we'll come in on that same lap though as Leclerc's come in. They've got some fighting there, and it's Giovinazzi trying to defend from the Renault of, I believe that is, I think, Esteban Ocon, but Giovinazzi trying to make a move down the inside of the Jaguar car, Stoffel Vandoorne. Giovinazzi round the outside, Vandoorne trying his best to defend, but I think there'll be no use for that, and the Red Bull should theoretically have the better pace to get that done. But look at that, Vandoorne gives him a real good fight. Look at that, the straight line speed the Jaguar's got is so immense. I think Jaguar for sure have set themselves up for a better straight line speed rather than through the corners, but ultimately it is going to be going to the Red Bull car of Giovinazzi then, and he's back up the order. But now we're going to move on to our pit stop now through Parabolica, lap 9, and looks like up ahead Vettel, I think his racing line's not coming in. Yeah, he's not coming in. Vettel is not coming into the pit stops then, so we are in. Obviously we're going to follow our teammate. He pitted on the previous lap, and in with us is Pierre Gasly, the other Red Bull car. So Leclerc went onto a set of super soft tyres, so alluding to Ferrari wanting to put us on a two-stop strategy. We're going to follow Leclerc on that strategy. I trust the team's judgment here. We've got some good speed. Obviously, we were in pole position with Leclerc, so I feel like they've calculated the numbers correctly in terms of we should have the pace to come back. And also, going off last season, Season 7, the medium tyres were quite horrendous around here, so you really want to try and avoid that. And speaking about that, Gasly's gone on to literally that set of tyres, so I would be surprised if he's going to go well here. But you can see the difference here is it is very dark now. It's a lot more overcast than it was at the start of this race, so I don't know, maybe there's some rain to come later on. That will certainly spice things up here around Monza, where everyone's gone for such low downforce to try and optimize the drag. Adding some rain into this is going to make things very interesting in the corners. But meanwhile, Vettel and Carlos Sainz still out there on the super soft tyres for 1 or 2 laps longer since Leclerc came in. So they're going very long and trying the overcut strategy. But as we come down now, the main straight on lap 12 this will be, and you can see up ahead, that is Sebastian Vettel in the Audi on soft tyres, and we're so much closer. Look, we're literally right up his gearbox now into turn 1 and 2. So we've gained all the time in the world there with the undercut, just 1 or 2 laps undercut. And so the overcut's not really the way to go. So I would imagine Carlos Sainz is going to lose that big time. But we're going to look at a replay now, because someone else that gained big time as well was this man, the BMW car of Sergio Perez. He's up ahead of Giovinazzi now and slotted in behind Pierre Gasly, and he's ahead of the Renault as well. Now, Perez was behind all these cars. He was outside the top 10 before the pit stop, so he's gained about, I think, 4 positions here with an amazing undercut. I think he might have come in on the same lap as Leclerc, so props to BMW there. Obviously, they're really struggling for outright pace around Monza with lack of balance in the car, and so they've done really well to put Perez on that undercut strategy to make that work. But anyway then, we're going to move back to our fight with Vettel now on lap number 12. And with a lot of good slipstream off the Ascari section, we're now going to try and make a move down the inside of Parabolica, but Vettel pinches us into the apex of the initial part of Parabolica. He's on the outside, and he's going to pull alongside and actually pull ahead now with that Audi power. And so we're going to have to try and slot in. I think DRS is still available, so we're going to open that up. I don't think anyone actually got DRS, actually, to be fair. No, I don't think so. No one got DRS off then. So now it's a toe-to-toe fight into turn 1. Big lock-up from us, double lock-up, in fact. We nearly go steaming straight on there, so for Vettel's sake, that was quite good for him. I didn't do that, and we didn't plough on, but we are ahead of him. We scrapped ahead in turns 2 and just made that work around the outside, but Vettel comes back, crucially. He's found the traction. It's now starting to rain, actually, in this Grand Prix. You can see the spray coming off our car, and Vettel somehow found the grip there, and he's now on the outside of us. We're going to try maybe the switchback move on him in the chicane. Oh, look at that. Bloody textbook that was. That was lovely stuff. And we're up into P2, but into these corners you can see the understeer I'm getting, and clearly the spray coming off these off the tyres, and it's definitely time for intermediates maybe in the next lap or so, and so that's definitely going to spice things up. But you can see again lack of traction, and here comes Vettel now flexing the muscles of that Audi car, and he's back up ahead, and he's actually got DRS open as well, and so DRS is still available, not for long now. Literally, speaking of the devil, is now disabled. Literally, the second Vettel overtakes me, it's disabled, so I don't know if I would have been able to keep him behind without DRS being available still, but you know, we'll never know. But we now go on to a set of intermediates, confirm that on the pit box there in the bottom right, and my teammate is in. I've got to come in. It's too wet to stay out on dry tyres, so I have to try the double stack here. So we're going to get held up a little bit by Leclerc, but we just have to come in. So that's really unfortunate for the entire grid. No one predicted the rain here, and everyone made their first pit stop. No one gained. There was no one even in the midfield that went on mediums or soft tyres to gain from this. Everyone pit early for another set of dry tyres, so all of us have been caught out by this rain. So now we're onto a set of green wall intermediate tyres, of course, but a little bit of a delay due to Leclerc coming in just before. But thankfully we have not lost a place, but we've also not gained anything on Sebastian Vettel, so we're going to be back out in P3. But someone who has gained is Sergio Perez. Look at that. Perez is now behind us. He's jumped Pierre Gasly then in the pit lane. Red Bull with a horrendous pit stop, and so the BMW cars have done another great job there on strategy and down the pit lane. Look at that. Really, really bad timing. Actually, it's not even Red Bull's fault or BMW's great work. It's really just about bad timing there. Gasly got held up by the likes of the Mercedes, the Renault, and so Perez is now in a net P4 in this Grand Prix. So compared to the qualifying woes of BMW, you've got to say that's pretty damn amazing for the BMW guys, and especially Perez there. He's obviously had his fair share of bad luck in this season so far, so good to see he's getting a bit of good luck here finally. And we're now looking at a replay of my teammate Leclerc, that is, onto the set of intermediate tyres. He's still going to be leading this Grand Prix, but he comes out just behind Valtteri Bottas, who remained on medium tyres. A few people had to go out for one more lap on the medium, so Leclerc's going to really catch up. But we talked about bad luck and some good luck for Perez. It's going to be bad luck for Leclerc with some contact there with Valtteri Bottas, and so Leclerc, you can see by the onboard of his car, has sustained a lot of damage on that front right. You can see there with the front wing there. The entire cascade element in black is off of that car. So Leclerc does still lead this race as we cut onto the live race action. He does still lead the Italian Grand Prix, but with major damage to his front wing now. Sebastian Vettel in P2. He'll be licking his lips maybe at the prospect of catching Leclerc. Let's see, because with the rain, that might neutralise things, because the rain might slow down the Audi car enough in the corners for Leclerc to keep that. But that's going to be something you have to keep an eye on and see how that progresses. We're in P3, still Perez in P4 then, like we mentioned, with the good luck there. Behind him are the championship rivals of ours, Pierre Gasly, and then Carlos Sainz with a bit of a train actually behind him of the Renault then, or that looks to be Esteban Ocon, and then the Mercedes of Max Verstappen, who's come back in this race. He had a bit of a quiet first stint after the initial kind of battling with us, but he's now trying to come back in this Grand Prix, and looks like he fancies maybe a move on the Renault soon enough. But the Renault is also fancying a move on the Audi, but a bit of a lock-up. He's ran wide a little bit, the Renault has, and so Verstappen might have a good run here now through the Ascari section, and you can see the Audi, how far he's waltzed away. So it's all going to be Verstappen now on Ocon here on the left-hand side, Dutch v French, and Verstappen has got that even before they get to the brake zone, and so Verstappen, he's always been quite handy in the wet, and so I'll be hoping he can try and use some of that skill to try and get himself back up the order. And he, you know, remember, he qualified in P3, so he'll be quite annoyed where he is at the moment. And now further back is Stoffel Van Dorn, who still finds himself in a very good position, I must say, ahead of Antonio Giovinazzi, the McLaren there, Daniel Ricciardo, I believe that is. So we'll have to see if anything changes in this status quo then in the rain. Obviously, very tricky conditions, you never know what can happen. And we move now back to a fight between myself and Sergio Perez for P3 in this Grand Prix. And Perez really pressurising me into parabolic. You can see a little twitch in the front end of that Ferrari of mine, and I'm really not liking these conditions at the moment. The Ferrari and me are just not gelled in the wet, let alone the dry at sometimes in this season so far. And Perez now is on our right-hand side. It's a drag race now. We pull back some time with a Ferrari engine v the BMW. Have a bit more power than the BMW guys, but Perez doing a great job to keep it down the inside. We're going to brake a little bit early, try and cut in and try and straighten up the car a bit more faster than Sergio Perez, trying to get the power down earlier. And even with a bit of snap of O's there, we are going to do that, and we get the slipstream and toe of Perez now. Pull to the left around the curve, and we're going to have to do this on the inside of the next chicane as Perez squeezes us to the left onto the grass. Nice and easy under braking, very close there to make contact, but not quite. Little bit of tyre bashing then for the second part of the chicane, and we're nearly shoved off into the gravel. And for added measure, I give Perez a little bit of banging back on the right hand side, and we're around the outside then of the first right hander, and then through to the second one. Perez gets the inside line, but he's gone so deep. We try and make a switchback move there and straighten the car a lot faster that time. And now on the right hand side, we'll plant the power and we'll get that back up into P3. And now look who's joined the party behind me. Pierre Gasly might fancy himself. We've held each other up so much that now the Frenchman is down the inside of the Mexican, and a bit more banging there between Gasly and Perez. But Gasly has made a fantastic move down the inside of Ascari there and caught Perez napping. He was focused too much on me, and he's made that work. But to be fair to him, the BMW man is coming back at Gasly and round the outside. Remember, this is in the intermediates, the wet. This is so much more impressive than in the dry. Round the outside of Parabolica, Perez is going to try and make that move. They're still neck and neck down the main straight. Fantastic battling, and Perez will get that move made in the intermediate conditions. So impressive there from the Mexican, who's obviously fighting for what would be one of his best positions in the BMW car so far in this season. But all this fighting might help these guys. Sainz, Ocon closing up, Van Dorn still keeping Giovinazzi at bay, and also that McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo, as well as I think that's the Alfa Romeo of Callum Ilott. They're doing a great job. Meanwhile, out in the lead is still Leclerc with that major damage. You can see Vettel's not too far behind. I want to say, I feel like Vettel has closed up somewhat, so we're going to have to take a look at that and see how that progresses. But now we move on a lap or two later. Perez still in P4 then, and he's still trying to keep Gasly at bay. And you can see, though, ourselves, we're not getting away from them, so we're still finding it tough to kind of get used to it. But as the laps go on, I do feel like I am getting better and better, so it's about just trying to get more and more comfortable in the car and trying to get away from these two. And speaking about these two, Perez locks up there. You can't quite see it on this quite annoying angle of the car, but he locked up there a little bit and gave Gasly a bit of a sniff there. So potentially Gasly might be lining up a move soon enough. And actually, no, he won't have to, because Perez has come in quite surprisingly to everyone really in the paddock. He's coming in for a pit stop. I don't know why. I don't know if he has damage, but the Renault is also in with him. So two cars in the pit lane in the middle of this interstint, and they're putting on another set of fresh intermediate tyres. Same for Esteban Ocon, and the same goes for the McLaren also of Daniel Ricciardo. So very odd situation. I don't know why these three cars going well, all three of them, but all of them now, they might have fresher tyres, but they're going to be behind in a lot of traffic to maybe get back into the points paying positions. And now we look at a replay here of Max Verstappen going off and having issues with his car here. I don't know if that's a brake issue or a tyre issue. If it is a tyre issue, maybe that's why the likes of Perez and Ricciardo have come in. Maybe Verstappen's really struggling with his intermediates now. He's really worn them out, but I didn't think there was that much tyre wear on the intermediates. It's not exactly like the slick tyre wear, but Verstappen with a double off there and parking it up. I don't know, he's trying to continue on. He's trying to drag that car up the order as best he can, but he's having some major issues having to park up there and wait for the Audi to go past. And here's an earlier replay from way back. This is before the rain came down. And this is Mick Schumacher. Something we missed entirely was Mick Schumacher with a smoking engine. And it looks like that's going to have to be a retirement there for the young German in the Mercedes car. And he retired way earlier on in the Grand Prix. So that was a bit of a disaster replay for both Mercedes cars. And so, I don't know, maybe that alludes to that's not a tyre issue for Verstappen. And speaking about him, here he is. Maybe this is just a car issue for the Dutchman. And maybe the Mercedes upgrades, obviously they bought a major engine upgrade and general chassis upgrade for this weekend. Maybe that's just failed in two entirely different ways. The engine for Schumacher and the chassis, or I don't know, aerodynamics or balance for Verstappen. But we almost get a bit of a contact there with Verstappen. Have to do some avoiding action there and tiptoe around him. But we're going to remain in P3 then. I think our P3 should be pretty safe. But something that might not be so safe is this man, Charles Leclerc, and his P1, because now you can see that camera angle says it all, really. Vettel is closing in on my teammate Leclerc for P1 with that major damage. You can just see there so clearly how much front wing is lopped off that Ferrari there. And so Vettel is just slowly eking into Leclerc's lead time here. And that's going to be a little bit worrisome for all the pit crew on the pit wall here today for Ferrari. And whilst that goes on, just a little rundown then of the running order. It's P3 myself from Pierre Gasly, and P4, P5 is Carlos Sainz. Then you got the Red Bull of Giovinazzi. Then it is the BMW of Valtteri Bottas that is actually going side by side, and actually the perfect timing to cut onto him because he's just been overtaken now by the Renault and might be overtaken by the McLaren of Lando Norris. Lando Norris pulling the stops out, down the inside he goes, and the Finn has just been passed by 2 cars there, and that was perfect timing for us to cut onto that camera. So now the Renault is up into what will be P7, I believe, and Lando Norris up into P8, and Bottas into P9, I think, if I've counted that correctly. But either way, Bottas losing 2 positions, and so it's gone from a really great race for a BMW. They're up into P4 with Perez to a horrendous one because Perez is outside the points and Bottas now is further down in the lowest points paying position. So yeah, the BMW bad luck continues in Season 8 of F1 MyDriver. Pretty crazy how one team can get so unlucky after qualifying so well, so consistently in this race. And like I mentioned earlier, whilst we're fighting Perez and Gasly, as the race has gone on in these intermediate conditions, I've been getting more and more confident with the car. And actually it stopped raining here towards the end of the race, so it's actually drying out the track. And so as the track has got drier, I've been getting a bit faster, so I've been feeling a lot more comfortable with Gasly in P4 then. I'm actually extending the gap, although I'm not catching Vettel at all. We are looking comfortable for the P3, but someone who might not be feeling too comfortable for his P1 is Leclerc here, because we're now here in the middle of the second last lap of the Grand Prix, lap 26 out of 27, and you can see there Sebastian Vettel is gaining and gaining every single corner, and it's drying out, which is helping the Audi through the corners, and of course it's still got that power advantage, and so every corner he's gaining on Leclerc with a wounded Ferrari car. These drying out conditions are also making Leclerc's job that much harder to wrangle the neck of this damaged Ferrari car. Now through the left-hander, out the Ascari section, Vettel is going to have the run, and this is going to be oh so painful. Sebastian Vettel on the left-hand side has taken the lead of the Italian Grand Prix on towards the last lap of the Grand Prix, lap 27, through the final corner. He gets it, and he leads the prancing horse in second place, and there's just nothing Leclerc can do about it. DRS is even activated. That's how much it's dried out in this Grand Prix. DRS is now back in this race. But as we cut back to our POV, we're in P3 comfortably, just about managing. You can see the conditions getting very tricky there with a snap of oversteer on the exit of that left-hander. But it is going to be Sebastian Vettel's day in the end. So cruel that victory has come at the hand of Ferrari there. But he goes across the line and he's going to win a second race in a row and his third of the season for DHL Audi Sport GP. We come across the line to join Leclerc on the podium. 2-3 podium for Ferrari. We can still be somewhat happy about that, but oh my god, that is so painful and gutting to just see and witness. Leclerc has been now robbed of 2 wins now. Monaco, he had the puncher, and Gasly took that, and now here, you know, through no fault of his own, that damage to his front wing has cost him that Grand Prix victory there. I just don't know if maybe pitting earlier again to change the wing might have helped. I'm not too sure. A lot of ifs and buts, but Sebastian Vettel has been the one victorious here at the Italian Grand Prix. But it's still a good points haul for Ferrari. We get more points as a whole than Red Bull and Renault, but I believe Audi will still outscore everyone there in this Grand Prix. But now we move on to the drivers' standings following that Italian Grand Prix. Pierre Gasly now takes the lead of the championship once again with 113 points, 2 ahead of Carlos Sainz in P2 there. P3 is then myself in the Ferrari, 105 points, so it's still a further 8 points back from Pierre Gasly, so we still have a lot of work to do for next race if we want to try and wrangle this in, but we've made a good step to overtake Ocon then, at least in the standings, who scored no points this race, and so he's fallen back really, and so it's kind of become a bit of a 3-way battle there at the top, and then it's kind of a huge battle between Ocon, Vettel, Giovinazzi, Leclerc, all within quite close to each other. Ocon 91 points, and Leclerc, if he was to actually get one of these wins, you know, soon enough, with 73 points, he would be there. But Vettel, look at that. He's in P5, 87 points, only a couple off Esteban Ocon. He's just shot up in the driver's standings ever since he joined Audi there. So a very positive move for him, but also for Verstappen as well in P8. He was not even in the top 12 earlier on in this season, so he'll be happy about that anyway, trying to climb up. But obviously a bad day in the office for both Mercedes cars this time round, with a double no-point scoring race for Mercedes. Of course, they brought major updates, and clearly it just failed and was too much for them today. but I'm sure they'll come back strong for the next race, and those upgrades will maybe be a little bit more reliable for them, hopefully, at the Spanish Grand Prix. And for the first time, Lando Norris gets up into the top 12 there with 39 points, equaling his teammate Dan Ricciardo in P13 with 39 points. So great stuff to see there for the youngster in the McLaren. The constructors then, Audi retake the lead of the Constructors' Championships, only 4 points ahead of Red Bull Racing Chevrolet, with us remaining in P3, and we're lagging a little bit behind between those two, but we're making good progress to maybe catch them up, hopefully, in the next couple of rounds. Renault remain in P4 in a bit of no man's land, really, along with no man's land Mercedes in P5, and then it's a very close scrap between McLaren, BMW, and even, you could argue, Haas as well, and then Alfa Romeo with their 56 points, still ahead of Jaguar after all the good work that Van Dorn did earlier on the Grand Prix. It was kind of undone in the intermediates, and so Jaguar is still there at the bottom. But guys, what a great Italian Grand Prix, and again, it kept the fire alive, and, you know, it's just another gutting race for Ferrari, really. And when will the luck, and when will that first win for the Scuderia come? I don't know. But guys, if you have enjoyed that episode, smash that like button. You guys have been killing it, and thank you so much for that. And so let's try and continue that, and let me know in the comments below what you thought of that race. If you're new around here, do get subscribed for weekly F1 content. I've been aarava. Have a terrific day, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.